when you sense somebody behind you, which is a common theme just here all the time throughout life, and everybody just say, oh, I just sense somebody behind me. Must be coincidence. It's not coincidence at all. Your third eye sees in a spherical 360-degree direction at all times. And when you sense somebody behind you, your third eye saw them. And the third eye is how people who can see auras, through their lifestyle, their diet, their pineal gland is not shut down, and they're able to see that different light of the spectrum that these eyeballs can't pick up. It's not that these eyes are there to see it, it's that their third eye is seeing it. And to show you that pineal gland is the main target for fluoride, when they do autopsies on people in fluoridated societies, they find fluoride throughout the body tissues in about 5 to 10 parts per million. But when they get to the pineal gland, it's 22,000 parts per million. It goes there like a magnet. So much so that the pineal gland becomes calcified. They've thrown mud in our eye. And again, it comes back to the vibrational war. It stops you from accessing spirit. And that's where your higher power, your higher voice, your higher self, your intuition, comes down through your third eye, which is also positioned right in the center of your chakra tube. The first page in here is an X-ray of a brain. And what you'll see in here, I'll pass it around, there's a white rock in the center of his head. It's supposed to be clear right there. And it says underneath, calcification of the pineal gland. So most people's third eye, it's what's wrong with everybody you're seeing out there that's in a stupor and a daze. They got a rock in the center of their head.
I'm all saying, you got rocks in your head. They're right.
Literally.
And so here's where distilled water comes into this battle. Calcified pineal gland, distilled water and or urine, which that's why I call them the sweet distilled liquids. Because, like I said, I'm trying to tell people urine therapy doesn't go over it well. So now I'm listing it under a higher body of knowledge, distilled liquids, because you don't have to just drink urine. Yes, urine is the best possible water anywhere in the universe, but you can use distilled water, fruit juice, other things to do the same effect. Calcified pineal gland, distilled water dissolves mineral deposits. That's a mineral deposit. You start taking in only distilled liquids and or do periodic fasts, say 3 days at a time, once a month, go for 3 days, you will melt the calcification of your pineal gland. When I first read about fluoride, one of the Nazi scientists was boasting, you let me put a man on fluoride for a year and he'll never be the same. And when I first learned about that and I realized that's what was causing my ADD symptoms my whole life, I was like, oh man, I don't know how am I going to get through that. And then when I finally learned about distilled water and urine, that is the answer.
So how old are you now, Randy?
40.
40.
Born in 1970.
What's your final year? I'm 75.
Wow, you look great.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. This gentleman here, how many years have you been drinking distilled water?
Oh, a long time, maybe 15 years, 20 years.
15, 20 years, and you haven't melted away.
No.
You haven't been dissolved.
No.
And you're very sharp. I would not, if you had asked me to guess, I would have said, 50 to 55. And that's based only upon what the typical person out there looks like. I would not at all guess you're 75. That's excellent, and I find that to be right here in front of us a testimonial of distilled water. Yeah. And, have you ever had distilled water before?
Yeah.
Most people, when they haven't, they don't realize how much it falls down your throat like air. And if you've ever been really thirsty and you don't have distilled water, but just in general, most people aren't drinking it, but when you try to chug water, sometimes it just doesn't go down. Whereas distilled water seems to fall down your throat no matter what mood you're in. And the reason when you're chugging other waters it doesn't really go down is because it's full of sand. Whereas distilled water seems to fall down your throat no matter what mood you're in. And the reason when you're chugging other waters it doesn't really go down is because it's full of sand, or minerals, or rocks, whatever they call it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like you were saying with the plants. The plants break down
Inorganic
and they make it absorbable for us.
They turn it
Just
into.
take it out of a rock.
They turn it from dead to live.
Mm-hmm.
Organic versus inorganic is vibrant, non-vibrant, live, dead, organized, chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Could you explain the process of distillation, not only the steam but
Inside the body.
and the whole life to death process, birth and
Oh, right. Okay. One that I've personally read over 1,000 urine therapy case studies, and no matter how many I've read and how much ammo I try to hand people, they just always come back and, yeah, but isn't it a waste product? And I've learned to use the baby as a very strong piece of evidence. The amniotic fluid is urine. For the first 3 months, it's mainly your mom's urine. For the remaining 6 months, it's mainly your urine. And in answer to that question, yeah, but isn't it a waste product? I say, tell me what the umbilical cord is attached to. It's attached to the intestines, which is where all feces and waste go. Is there an umbilical cord on your genitals? We are peeing into that space. We are creating the water that breaks. The water of life. If you were to choose a liquid to grow a human in, you might think your first choice would be a liquid called the water of life. And that's exactly what it is. It's living liquid tissue. And it's the ultimate human growth medium. And basically, whatever it touches, it promotes growth to the original genetic DNA instructions. One, if it's such a waste product, how is it that that's all the baby floats in? 2, if distilled waters leach both kinds of minerals, how come the baby is growing at all? Why isn't the baby just completely not even starting? Yeah, it's dissolving, and how could it even begin anywhere? And you might remember that we breathe like a fish when we're inside the womb. Without urine, your lungs would not form. It's literally what creates it. And if you ever get a cut, it's one of the first most innocuous things you can do to your own, what's up with this urine thing? You will not believe how fast it'll stitch a wound back together. It's almost like somebody's in there. You would have to use, you feel like using the term miracle speed, because compared to any Eastern or Western medicine, it just heals things so unbelievably fast, and with no scars. Chinese and Japanese families that know about this, they keep 30 to 40 gallons of aged urine on hand for emergencies. Say if a child pulls a pot of boiling water off the stove and burns the body, they wrap them in cloths and then soak the body with urine. And they heal with no scars. And normally, anybody that gets burned, they're going to be in a burn unit and they're going to go through months of agonizing pain. And they're going to have life-deforming burn scars the rest of their life. Urine leaves no scars. It restores it to what it's supposed to be. The baby grows in it.
Well, what about the health of the urine? I mean, it's one of the first things they test for you when you go to the hospital. They test your urine for whatever. So obviously not all urine is the same.
Right. You mean help me? Is it okay? Right. Is it toxic sometimes and not others? But put it this way first and foremost, and I'll explain. Even at no times, at all times, there is no more perfect beverage for you anywhere in the universe than a glass of your own fresh urine. Even if you are 3 days away from dying and your urine is thick, bloody, and pussy, it is exactly what the body needs to understand what the problem is. It's an auto-vaccination. It's a digital readout of what's going on in the body. Part of the way urine works is these two lymph nodes produce antibodies. And say you have the flu, antigens, which are homeopathic-sized dots of the flu, those are the only waste products that are in the urine. And when you either drink it or hold it in your mouth for 10 minutes, you let these lymph nodes study it, it's like hints in the wind. Ah, that's who's messing it up. Now we start popping out the right antibodies. And so likewise, if you drink the urine of somebody that has tuberculosis, this kind of answers your question, is it toxic? All it will do to you is tell your body how to produce antibodies against tuberculosis. It's not going to give you tuberculosis. It's going to, now you've been given the vaccine. And that's what vaccines attempt to do, but they're really poisoning people, is to give you minute particles of a thing to educate the body, to trick it into creating the right medicine against it. And I'll get back to how it produces. On that note of the homeopathic-sized dots in your urine, and there's antigens, and these produce antibodies. From now on, you never, ever have to worry about getting bit by a snake or a spider out in the woods again. Seconds after any poison enters the bloodstream, the antidote is in your pee. And all you have to do is pee out a little bit and hold it under your tongue. And your body will go, ah, we got cobra poison, we got black mamba poison, we got coral snake poison, tarantula, scorpion, bam, 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 here's the correct antibodies. Not only does it stop the allergic reaction in real time, but if you take your pee from that moment and save some of it and create an even further diluted homeopathic solution, like take 2 drops of that pee, and put it in 2 tablespoons of water and save it in a little dropper jar, if over the next, say 10 days, you put 3 drops under your tongue,